barrel. Now, moving on, the United Nations World Food Programme is calling for the reopening of the Black Sea port to protect Ukrainian agricultural production and enable exports that are critical to Ukraine's economy and global food security, and allow for the safe passage of assistance into the Odessa. Now, Ukraine is a food surplus country, exporting the majority of grains it produces as well as other key food commodities. Key exports include maize, wheat, and sunflower oil. Here's more details of that in this report.
Russia and Ukraine combined account for 30% of the global wheat and 20% of global maize exports. Any disruption in production or supply could drive prices up, affecting millions of vulnerable families, especially in hunger hotspots. 1 month after the war in Ukraine began, export prices of wheat and maize had risen by 22% and 20% respectively, on top of the step rise in 2021 and early 2022. And through this, access to food, especially for millions of people who are already under stress, given very high levels of food inflation in their countries. A WFP official warns that the continued closure of the port could trigger severe ramifications on the global population.
This grain helps feed 400 million people around the world, and these ports are shut down because of this war. We need to get the ports open, operational, otherwise we're going to have catastrophe on top of catastrophe, millions of people around the world starving to death, and we need these ports open, and we need it now.
Sea access via Odessa and other ports are currently blocked. As a Black Sea port, the port of Odessa is a critical route through which food is exported globally, including to numerous countries, particularly those vulnerable to food insecurity. Alexei, a sailor on a cargo ship, lamented about the food scarcity and surging prices of the available commodities.
Food is also already nearly finished, and the price of the food is already so high. And if you don't have money, you don't have cash, you cannot buy it.
Before the conflict started, 98% of grain exports from Ukraine were transported via the Black Sea. The pre-crisis primacy of Ukraine's Black Sea ports is such that alternative export routes do not yet have sufficient infrastructure to be immediately viable alternatives, and other export routes such as via the Danube River, rail and road are therefore congested or restricted. In the first 8 months of the current crop marketing year, July 1st, 2021 to 28 February 2022, close to 51 million metric tons of grains were exported via Ukraine's 7 Black Sea ports. The port of Odessa is ranked 4th compared to Ukraine's other Black Sea ports, with over 5.5 million metric tons of grain exported via the port during this period. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.